This episode is brought to you by the Denver Art Museum. Check out the Denver Art Museum's next late-night event, Untitled Artist Takeover, happening on Friday, April 25th from 6 to 10 p.m. Experience a vibrant night of art, performances, hands-on art making, a pop-up bar, and unique experiences led by local artists Buffalo Barbie and Sarah Ortegon Highwalking. Drop by a spoken word performance or join in on the excitement of a hat and boot dance inside one of the galleries. It's a nighttime atmosphere, which automatically changes how the museum feels. And the local connection, obviously, is my favorite part about Untitled, is like getting to see local artists in this revered space. I don't know. It's just, I've seen so many of my friends do this, and I've also found new artists in Denver through going to Untitled. So I'm excited to check this out. Untitled Artist Takeover is included in general admission and free for Denver Art Museum members. Reserve your tickets today at denverartmuseum.org. That's denverartmuseum.org. This episode is brought to you by Pine Melon. Ever wish you could get farm fresh produce, eggs, dairy, and meat delivered right to your door? Well, thanks to Pine Melon, it's easy to have the Colorado Farmers Market delivered. Get all your small batch local faves you can't find at the chain grocery store dropped right on your doorstep. Simply visit pinemelon.com or download the app and use our code CityCast to get 75% off your first time. That's pinemelon.com, and don't forget, use our code CityCast to get 75% off. Hey, it's Bree. I know you love Denver and you want to feel more connected to this place. I mean, you're listening to this show right now, so I know you care about the city as much as I do. And I mean, no better time than right now to become a CityCast Denver neighbor then and support the work we do through this podcast and newsletter every day. As a gift for joining our membership program, we're going to give you something cool. It's a CityCast Denver mug, and it's just for our new neighbors. Simply visit membership.citycast.fm to sign up. Okay, on with the show. Today on CityCast Denver. Spring is well underway, but Colorado's famously temperamental weather means getting your garden going can be challenging. But don't worry, our resident plant expert, Marie Awad, is back to answer all your burning questions and offer some great advice for creating your best garden yet. Oh, and stick around for a sponsored conversation with Jennifer Gremmer, the CEO of Energy Outreach Colorado, a great organization working to make our community greener. Today is Wednesday, April 23rd. I'm Bree Davies, and here's what Denver's talking about. Marie Awad, welcome back to CityCast Denver.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So you're a resident gardening expert. Before we get started, you're wearing a shirt that says BDSM. What does it say at the bottom?
It says bees do so much for the environment.
It's just so appropriate for the conversation we're going to have today about gardening because we got some questions about pollinators.
Exactly.
So
I wear this to the garden center all the time.
I loved it. I just had to point it out. So we asked listeners to send in their gardening questions. And, before we get into like the more expert gardener questions, I wanted to start with my own beginner question, thinking about someone who might be listening who's like me and has never gardened. So is there an easy, one tip or a couple tips for someone who's like, I want to start gardening tomorrow?
Oh, well, so I think in Colorado, containers are the way to go in the
Container
beginning.
gardening,
Yeah, like a pot or a series of pots.
Okay.
I think people get really into the idea of digging a hole in the ground and starting a garden. And I think we're going to get to this, but like the soil here is not great for that.
So it's not a good beginner soil, really.
No, it's very advanced soil. So I think a container garden really helps. I think also there are a lot of these places around town, garden centers, and also just like small businesses that do these garden in a box things. I think one person who asked a question had referred to one of these. And I think these are great places to start because they will usually, a lot of these will feature like native Colorado plants, meaning you'll throw them in the ground and they're perennial. They'll come back on their own and they'll usually get bigger and better every year.
Yes, I can attest to that. My husband does garden in a box like every year and we've just slowly added to it. And
it's great.
It's awesome to see it come back.
Yeah. And it's the way to go. It's like if you don't want to be planting like annuals every single year, unless you're like crazy like me, by all means, it's a great way to go. And a lot of perennials can do really well in pots. And certain things can do well year round in pots here, maybe not in the winter. But that's the other reason it works really well too, is if you could just bring it on inside. And especially for the folks who have like balconies, porches.
I'm thinking, more apartment living or somewhere where you just don't have a garden.
Yeah. Or you have a lot of hard landscaping here. Containers are the way to go. And a lot of garden centers are really great, well set up to get you well set up to start gardening in containers. Like sometimes they'll just have it pre-potted for you. When I worked in a garden center last year, that's a lot of what we did. We did like a lot of like pre-made arrangements for people. So if you want somebody to do all the hard work for you and you just got to like water it, so there's plenty of places around town that'll help you out with that. There you go.
I don't know why I didn't even think of that, but that makes so much sense. And you can go to like a smaller independent gardening center like the City Floral where you worked, and there's folks there who have created these things who can tell you more about them.
Yeah, Ector's is also great. I think Ector's is the one that has the plant doctor. Tagawa does really beautiful like pre-made arrangements every single year. They do these like little kitty gardens because their mascot's like a cat.
Oh, cute.
So there's a lot of places where it's a great place to be a beginner. There's all these really great local businesses you can go to who can get you set up for your first year, your second year, your third year. But I would say like containers are the place to start.
Okay, perfect. Oh, okay, let's get into our listener questions from the actual gardeners. We got a couple of these about older growth, old foliage. Jenny S. in Northland says, when can we start cleaning up the yard so we don't disturb the sleeping pollinators? And we were kind of struggling with this too, is like, when do you get rid of the overgrowth, the dead plants from last year? Because initially it was like, don't disturb the pollinators. We might get another frost. Like, when can you start doing that cutback?
You could do it now. You can totally do it now. Two things you want to look for. If you're talking about perennial plants, if you're already seeing like new green growth at the base of that plant, you could start cutting off the old stuff. And then the second thing to look for is just anecdotally around, like, do you see bees? Do you see wasps? Do you see flies? I see a lot of them in my yard already. So that's a good sign that they're just like up and about and awake, and it's cool to cut back your growth.
So they'll kind of tell you almost.
Yeah.
Like they're already around. Oh, wasps and flies, though?
I get a lot of... flies are our most populous pollinator.
Really?
Oh, my God. I said that on the first try.
I was like, but bees are they're just like the cool-looking ones that we mostly pay attention to?
Charismatic, photogenic ones. Yeah. No, it's true. I can't remember where I read this a while ago, but like somebody... I think it was like somebody was like complaining to the CSU annex or something. And they were like, why are there so many flies around? They were like, well, actually, those are good guys.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
I would just assume it was like because there was trash in my yard or dog poop or something.
No, that's why the first few years I lived in my house, I was like, there must be something rotten in my yard.
Yeah. Or like, rotting compost pile that I started or whatever. But it actually can be a good sign.
Yeah. I mean, there was something rotten in my yard, though.
So maybe check for that also.
Check for that
But
first.
also, like you said, the green growth will be a good signal that it's time to start hacking away at that old dead foliage.
Yeah. And I mean, like where I'm at in the city, I see that in my yard too. Is like I'm already seeing a lot of these perennial flowers come back that way.
Okay. On to soil, which you kind of mentioned at the top as being one of the tougher parts of being a gardener here. Before we get into these questions, Anne-Marie, what type of soil are we dealing with in Colorado mostly?
We have heavy clay.
Okay.
That's what you're running into a lot of.
And that's just tough to plant in.
It's tough to do a lot of things in. Okay. I mean, I remember first moving into my house and like trying to dig garden beds and just like you like put a shovel in it and they'll just come away in like a big ball and like it'll make you crazy. So it's really hard soil to work with, and it's like hard to do substantial stuff in your yard by hand sometimes. And then depending on where you live in the city, like you and I live in the Southwest, under my dirt, there's a lot of just like crap, like just like no, not literal, we'll get to that,
but like
stuff like hard landscaping. I have a lot of just trash.
I was gonna say, I've found trash,
just like so much trash. I find a lot of like random broken glass and stuff like that. Yeah, so that's the other reason why I'm like, when I first moved to Colorado, I was like, no, I will have beautiful gardens in the ground. I will not get these raised beds. They're a waste of money. But like, well, okay, now I understand why everybody has them. It's like, it's because the ground's really hard to work with. Yeah. Unless you have a lot of money to bring in professional landscapers who will like scrape the first layer and just throw it in a dumpster for you. Like,
and give you some fresh soil.
Yeah, it's hard to work with.
Well, we'll listen to a voicemail regarding soil.
Hi, CityCast. This is Greta in Nevada, and I was calling with a gardening question. I hear people talk a lot about building up your soil or ways to build your soil, and I was wondering if you had any recommendations about how to build up soil and what that means and how many years it takes, how to kind of expedite the process. So that's what I got. Thanks.
So we were just talking about you can scrape it all out and put it down, but this sounds like there may be ways to do it more gradually.
It is only gradually,
okay.
Really. Like even like the scrape and dump, has its issues. It's really hard to change the actual character of the soil. You can do it over time. There are a lot of methods that fall under what's called the no-dig sort of school of thought, where you kind of build the soil like lasagna, and you're doing this every season. So that's when you are regularly mulching around a lot of your shrubs. You're kind of building up that soil layer. Some people, when they're maybe you move into a new property and you have a bunch of like scrubby, weedy, crappy area, people will put cardboard and mulch over that. And then like over a season or two, it'll break down. It'll start to build new layers of soil. And then every year you're kind of adding more organic material on top. That's a really long process.
Yes.
Yeah. So hence the containers.
That makes sense. Or like if you're just like long-term planning for the next 10 years, because like our yard is all front yard and we have no backyard. And that was kind of my husband's plan, was like, this is going to take like a decade for us to get it going. But like, maybe you don't want to wait that long.
There are like other kind of things you can do over a couple of seasons. Like if you have like really tough soil, like it's like if you try to put a shovel in it, you just like can't. You can plant certain things like sunflowers, or I've even heard people doing this with radishes, where they literally just have like big tap roots that will go and break up the soil for you. And then the following years, it might get a little bit easier to kind of like introduce more organic material. And then I've also heard, someone out there might fact check me on this. I don't know how, like, you hear funny things on the gardening internet, but I think sunflowers are considered to be what's called phytoremediators, meaning that they'll suck up certain heavy metals from the soil and store it in their biomass. And so some people look at them as like a way to clean up areas. Again, don't quote me on this. Like someone at CXU Extension is going to be like, excuse me, but
I also feel like they're kind of an easy thing just to grow.
Oh, they're so easy. They love Colorado weather.
Yeah. You see them a lot I remember growing up as a kid, we had them just all along the side of our house.
Yeah.
Every year.
No, they like the weather here a lot too. So it's, you can plant all different kinds. Like I plant these like insane huge ones just because they're fun. And the taproots are humongous, and they'll really like put a dent in some tough soil for you.
This episode is brought to you by Pine Melon. Pine Melon is a unique local grocery delivery service. Think of it as the Colorado Farmers Market delivered. Besides just supporting local farmers and businesses, Pine Melon is also helping the environment. Each of their delivery vans keeps 50 cars off the street, and their returnable and reusable delivery boxes save 5,000 grocery bags every single week. This spring, Pine Melon is asking Denverites to make a pledge to support local food just once a month, and they're going to make it super easy for you. First-time customers get 75% off your first order. Just use the code CityCast. When you choose food that's grown, raised, and crafted right here in Colorado, you're choosing to protect the environment, improve your health, and help your community thrive. Whether you're getting some fresh produce delivered or the ingredients to make your favorite cookie recipe, it's cool to know you're making a difference. Visit pinemelon.com or download the app and use our coupon code CityCast to get started with 75% off. That's pinemelon.com and use the code CityCast to get 75% off. This episode is brought to you by Aura Frames. What does your mom want for Mother's Day? Well, my mom always just wants pictures of her kids all together with her grandkids. And this is a tall order because we don't all live in the same place. So I hate to spoil this for you, Brooke, because I know you're listening, but you're getting an Aura digital picture frame for Mother's Day, which is coming up soon, like May 11th. So don't forget. Aura Frames was named the best digital photo frame by Wirecutter and featured in 495 gift guides last year. So next time you need to call your mom, you can also send her a new pic of you from that trip you've been telling her all about, right from your phone. I think the only picture my mom has of all of us together is at Casa Bonita. It's the only time maybe all of us were together. Aura has a great deal for Mother's Day, too. For a limited time, listeners can save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off plus free shipping on their best-selling Carver mat frame. That's auraframes.com. Use promo code CityCast. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply.
What sort of promises have you made to yourself this year? Getting in better shape, eating healthier, saving more money, traveling somewhere new? What about discovering a new culture by learning a new language? With Babbel, you can do that in just a few weeks. I'm David Plotz, the CEO of CityCast, and I've been learning Spanish with Babbel. Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons, handcrafted by over 200 language experts, get you to begin speaking your new language in 3 weeks or whatever pace you choose. And because conversing is the key to really understanding each other in new languages, Babbel is designed using practical, real-world conversations. The Spanish I learned on Babbel really helped me on a recent trip to Mexico City. Ordering in restaurants, shopping at the textile market, cheering on at the Lucha Libre. And I've been keeping it up since I got home. You're a podcast listener. I know that because you're listening here. I bet you'll love Babbel's new podcasts. On Eavesdrop in Espanol, which I listen to, you get to listen to a real conversation, then have the teacher host explain back to you. Then you listen again and catch everything. And you can even read along in the transcript. It's a really fun and effective way to learn. Let's get more of you talking in a new language. Babbel is gifting CityCast listeners 60% off subscriptions at babbel.com/CityCast. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/CityCast. Spelled BABBEL.com/CityCast. Babbel.com/CityCast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Cool. Let's hear another voicemail.
Hey, CityCast Denver and Anne Marie. This is a gardening question coming to you from Dietrich in Northside. Two-part question related to weather and seasons. First, is there a way to get data on the first frost, historically speaking? I know the average is somewhere around May 7th, but I guess I'm curious if maybe global warming or microclimate might affect the actual last frost and allow me to plant a little bit sooner. And then my second question here is also related to planting seeds on the verge of too early. Sometimes I notice my sunflower seeds will pop up weeks before the dates listed on, say, a package that you'll buy at the store. Am I allowed to plant other seeds in that kind of category as early as I see their brethren popping up in my garden? Or are those seeds that are popping up special in some way? Are they more weather hardy and maybe I should try propagating those ones? Maybe this is a meandering question, but I'm curious your thoughts on planting related to the first frost.
Let's start with the first frost question because I think that this is such a Colorado conundrum, right? It's like it's what we're known for, our wacky weather. Yeah. So we just had one of those weekends where it was like 60 degrees, 70 degrees, snow.
Yep.
And so he's asking, like, May 7th is what they're saying is the average. Is this maybe changing because of global warming? How do you navigate the last frost conversation?
So this is like a weird moving target now because it is earlier. But then you will get like dumped on with snow. So I feel like much harder to predict than it used to be. So like the folk rule here is after Mother's Day, it should be fine. I have lived here almost 10 years, long enough to see that rule be wrong. And so now I'm one of these really extra paranoid people, and I won't start putting stuff in the ground until like really late May, early June. But I think some people, what's her name? I forget her name. Denver Kitchen Gardens. She's like an Instagram account. She has some really good tips for how you can sort of like extend the season in either direction. Meaning like you plant things under cover.
Like you can protect some of your plantings.
Yeah. So I'm the proud owner of 2 cold frames. These are just like mini greenhouses that you can get where you could start transitioning plants outside as early as March sometimes. Although with the below freezing over the weather, I had to take everything inside. But that stuff is great. I think you'll also probably walk around and see people doing plastic tunnels a lot for that reason. Like that'll keep it maybe 10 degrees warmer for when we might get like a
plastic tunnel like that goes over.
Goes over
A
your
row?
garden beds.
Okay.
Yeah. So me personally, I'm not putting anything in the ground that early. If you want to, you can, and you can do tunnels that are covered in some kind of plastic or like shade cloth. And sometimes that'll be enough. There are all these other sort of protective things you can get. Like there's some sort of like plant protector you could get that has water in the walls, and we'll use the water to insulate it. There are ways to plant out earlier, and still be vigilant. I will say just, expect to maybe lose some of your plants. That's just
a reality.
That's what I factor in every year. I actually have an absurd amount of plants in my house right now. It's disgusting. It's not funny. I had a bad year last year in terms of the seeds I started, and then I like overcompensated this year, and now I have 30 tomato plants.
But you're saying you could plant all those, and you plan to lose, 20% of them?
10 or 20%, something like that. I just think it's a safe bet. I just think I like to joke that if I started gardening somewhere else besides Colorado, I'd be like amazing at, how like people who train to run here are like better at running at sea level. I feel like it's sort of the same thing where it's like you budget for all sorts of things that can happen. I grow more than you need to, germinate more seeds than you need to, get friends and give them away. I think I invited you over to my house later this month to give you plants. But I just, that's really how I've started to do things in recent years, is I don't like start 4 seeds and be like, this is going to be all my tomato plants for the whole year.
No, this seems like such a great way to approach it, because you can't, like you said, the weather is changing. Like he said, he's talking about climate change issues. How do we beat that? Just like be a little bit over prepared, because we don't know.
Yeah.
So the second part of Dietrich's question was about dates of seed packaging.
Of the brethren.
Yeah. I have to say this went over my head. So
I think it may be part of the same question. I think he's saying that he's having plants that are germinating outside this early. And so is it okay to start planting other stuff this early? And I would say no.
Okay. I
would say really honestly, be careful. You have... what happened just this past weekend is a really great example. Things will germinate because it is, 60, 70, 80 degrees outside, and then they'll die. And you don't want to invest too much time and energy planting stuff when you know it's still that possibility. That's also, I just have moved way more into starting stuff indoors. If you really have the temptation, if you're really feeling the itch, start something on a windowsill. I would still say it's too early for you to be planting a lot of stuff outside.
Okay. We have one last voicemail.
Hi, CityCast Denver. This is Val from the Clayton neighborhood, and I'm an aspiring avid gardener. Over the last 3 years, I figured out how to deal with shade, our scorching sun, hail, clay-heavy soils, and aphids, but I struggle with one issue that continues to evade me: squirrels. They rip out my seedlings, eat most fruits of my labor, and fight each other in my flower beds, leaving a wake of broken stems behind. The only thing that works is covering seedlings with a wire contraption, which doesn't seem sustainable long term. The conventional humane advice on Reddit, like marigolds and all of those things, end up seeming to help the squirrels. They seem to eat the marigolds, run through the capsaicin, pick around the alliums, and knock over cloves of garlic as though to defy conventional humane advice on Reddit. I would love any tangible advice from Marie Awad on how to live in harmony with my bushy, rude rodent neighbors. Thanks.
I love this too, because we were just talking, we have some wildly behaved squirrels in our neighborhood.
Squirrels don't care about you.
No, they are very brazen.
Wow.
But she's saying there's been these traditional ways that folks recommend you to deter squirrels.
None of that stuff works.
Yeah, so marigolds are something that people recommend.
I did not know that was supposed to be a squirrel thing. That's like a pest repellent thing.
Okay.
Like aphids, I think. But
and then
squirrels obey no man.
Cloves of garlic, capsaicin. None of that works.
No, I haven't. People say that the spicy stuff is supposed to. No, I got the spicy bird feed, and they don't care. Okay, I'm going to give a speech for a second. Hold on. The most helpful way to think about it is like a protection racket. You have to enter into an arrangement with the squirrels, okay? You have to understand the squirrels' needs and how you can meet them. No, let me back up. Okay, a couple things I've learned is, first of all, the wire stuff, unfortunately, is some of the best way to deter them.
And this is just like putting a cage around your plants?
Cage or netting or something.
Okay.
I hate all that stuff. And I know nobody loves it. Everybody's like, this doesn't look very pretty.
It doesn't look nice, yeah.
No, but it's really like honestly the best way. It's as long as you're really careful about it. I will say the one thing that people should be really aware of, especially if you use bird netting, is like don't leave piles of it around. Like animals can get tangled up in it, and then you'll really get up close and personal with a squirrel. But I think it also helps to understand a little bit about why they come to your garden, especially like in the heat of summer. So a lot of times I tell people that if you say you have tomatoes and you have like one little tiny bite taken out of all of your tomatoes, my guy does not want tomatoes. He wants water.
Thirsty.
And so if
Yes, I've seen these, like they're not necessarily bird feeder water. It's like for other squirrels, even bugs, I've heard.
Yeah. Just leaving like a water dish or two in your garden, I think you'll start to notice the squirrels mess with your stuff less. Some things they're always going to mess with. Like around this time of year, I think they really love like the brand new spring growth on certain plants like strawberries, and they'll try to dig that up no matter what. And I just have netting over it. But the water is a huge one. Like a few years ago, I realized that was like a large reason why they were messing with a lot of my stuff was water. And then I do also have bird feeders.
No, I was just going to say providing shade. Would
Shade
that help?
helps.
I don't know.
Yeah. If you have, I mean, basically like the stuff that all wildlife appreciates. Like if you, it's weird because they're jerks, but if you treat them like they're like all the other animals, it helps. And so like, even with the bird feeders, like I have a squirrel feeder. Like I just put out a little bit of food for them. And periodically, I think that gets them to screw off. Other times, if I don't fill it fast enough, then they get like bossy.
Because I was just wondering, I was like, can you tempt them with like some old donuts or something in another corner of the yard? But like, I don't know if that would deter them from still going and getting the things that they want from your garden.
See, I don't know. I live near a lot of bakeries, so I already have squirrels coming to my yard with like full tortillas all the time.
Same, and conchas and like all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
No, they like bring their lunch to my backyard. It's really funny. I mean, at a certain point, you have to accept it. If you have bird feeders too, there's like baffles, because they'll mess up your bird feeders a lot. I know this person maybe didn't mention that. Baffles help. If you have a lot of patience and you want to use Vaseline to oil up the poles, it's very funny to watch, but you have to re-up it a lot. But yeah, I mean, I think that like making your garden even the slightest bit more just wildlife friendly in general helps them be less aggressive. And then just accepting that like with certain things, they're going to be aggressive no matter what, and just fencing, netting. Look, I understand how humbling it is to realize that you have not outsmarted the bird net. But it's a necessary evil.
You gotta meet squirrels where they are, you know? But it sounds like a little bit of like protective stuff, but also the reality of it, which is they are part of this ecosystem. Can we make it a little bit more amenable for them? And hopefully they won't be doing the thing like just taking one bite out of a really juicy tomato because they're thirsty and going to that thing instead. But that's not to say they won't still destroy your garden. It's just like cross your fingers.
It really is like the mafia, man. You know, it's like the price just always goes up and, you know, just can't always afford it. Like,
oh my gosh. Well, Anne-Marie, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, y'all.
Okay, before we get to our last segment today, I want to check in on our spring membership campaign and give a special shout out to our newest CityCast Denver neighbors. Amber Ramos, Sarah Biles, Lindsay Dameron, and Caroline Dodson, you all are awesome. And hey, do you want to join these folks building a better Denver? If so, you get a free neighbors-only coffee mug. All you have to do is go to membership.citycast.fm and sign up. And now, please enjoy the sponsored interview with producer Paul Caroli and the CEO of Energy Outreach Colorado, Jennifer Grimmert.
I'm here with Jennifer Grimmert of Energy Outreach Colorado. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, Paul.
So Energy Outreach Colorado, it's turning 35 this year. That's huge. Congratulations.
Yes, we're very, very excited. I've been with the organization 25 of those years, so it's even better.
I don't normally tell people, but I also turned 35 this year. We're the same age. And that means that we share a birth year, 1989. Tell us about
That's right.
the founding story. Give me the origin story of the EOC.
Well, Energy Outreach Colorado was really created to help fill in the gaps for the public programs that provide energy assistance. And since then, we've just dramatically expanded from providing energy assistance to families to providing energy efficiency upgrades. We do a lot of exciting policy work and can even subscribe families into renewable solar gardens.
Huh. Okay. Renewable solar gardens. That's interesting. What is that? What does that mean?
A solar garden is a big array of renewable energy that isn't placed on anyone's home in particular. And so it can be built anywhere. And so for folks that are renters or that don't have a rooftop, we can help subscribe that energy and help reduce their energy bills.
Okay. So like a family living in a big apartment building downtown, maybe they can't get their own solar panels.
Correct.
But they could work with you all to get a share of the energy produced by some solar array way out in the middle of somewhere.
Exactly.
Nice. Interesting. Well, a lot has changed since 1989. How has the EOC's approach to energy assistance changed since then?
We really think of this as a holistic approach, looking at short-term solutions that we can make sure that families have access to energy, that they can afford their energy bill, the long-term solution of how do we improve the health and safety of their home by improving the energy efficiency, and just really participating in this energy transition to make sure all households can afford the commodity that's so basic to our lives.
That is such a big topic right now. I know there's like a million different pieces of it too. I'm excited to hear about all of it, but I know there's one piece in particular that you are passionate about. There was a piece of legislation that you all helped get passed a couple of years ago. There's this House Bill 21-1105 related to energy assistance. I'd love to hear all about that.
Sure. Well, we were really looking for a sustainable way to serve more and more Colorado households with the programs that we offer. And so that piece of legislation coming on the back of the pandemic was critical for us to be able to expand our energy assistance programs and expand just basic services for families across Colorado. It's been an amazing benefit to families.
What actually was the bill?
So it's an energy benefit charge, if you will, on investor-owned utility bills. So all customers of Xcel Energy or Atmos Energy, for example, have a charge on their bill. We collect that. It's an optional charge. And then we aggregate that to deliver programs to households.
Huh. Interesting. I want to ask you about the big picture question, the long-term big picture question, the tension around green energy. A lot of people point to is affordability because Colorado wants to make this transition, but that costs a lot of money and no one wants to pay higher bills. How is Energy Outreach Colorado making sure the clean energy transition stays affordable and equitable for everyone?
This transition really provides opportunities and challenges, as you mentioned. And so for Energy Outreach Colorado, what we're so passionate about is that we've been doing this work for 35 years. We have really strong programs in place, really strong partnerships with utility companies, with nonprofits, with state agencies, and we've built a really strong reputation to deliver these programs. And so we're constantly trying to provide the reasonable approach to this work through our policy work and through our partnerships. And so while it's a tense time, it's also an exciting time because we've been really able to expand these programs and really get the impact from the families that we serve so that we can curate these programs to be really the most beneficial to them.
Well, Jennifer, for folks listening out there who want to help out with this work, especially as you celebrate 35 years, what's the best way for them to support your work?
We have a fantastic website, energyoutreach.org, where people can donate. They can look and see our programs. In honor of 35th anniversary, we're looking at $35 a month, for example, that people can donate to us either on their utility bill. We have a really generous donor that's matching contributions right now up to $50,000. So it's a really great time to become a partner with us.
Well, Jennifer Gremmert of Energy Outreach Colorado, thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thanks, Paul. It's been a pleasure.
That's all for today here on CityCast Denver. If you enjoyed this show, why not take a minute to tell the folks at Ector's Nursery and Garden Center about us? Rate the show wherever you get your podcasts and subscribe to our morning newsletter and learn more about us at denver.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. See you later.
Hi, I'm Michael Fry, and I've lived in Denver for 15 years. I read a lot of newsletters, but CityCast's Hey Denver newsletter is the one I never skip. I love it because it's not divisive, it's not ugly, it's helpful. It's like my really nice neighbor who I run into on the way to work who says, "Hey, did you hear about that thing?" I recently spent some time living abroad in Portugal, and CityCast Denver was the thing that helped me stay connected to my city. And I support CityCast Denver because I want to make sure it sticks around. The information is valuable, and the people providing it really care. And to prove that, I'll let you in on a secret, which is that when you reply to Hey Denver, the author, Peyton Garcia, actually emails you back. CityCast Denver is such an important service to the city, and you can support it too by becoming a CityCast Denver neighbor. Just go to membership.citycast.fm and sign up. And that's membership.citycast.fm.